Welcome back for a new game pickups list. This time it's going to be the first of off and on a special series of pickups for the 6th console generation. In this video we will be looking at a combination of Dreamcast and original Xbox. So with that said, first up, on the Dreamcast side of things, we have Sega Sports NFL 2K. Strangely enough, like all the covers of this series, all had Randy Moss on the cover, and just a quick little fun fact, Randy Moss actually went to my local university, Marshall. So just a fun little fact, but anyways, even though I'm not a big sports person, I will admit I've always had a soft spot for the 2K like NFL games. I liked them more than the Madden series in my opinion. I think this series was actually better. It would briefly go on the original Xbox, but sadly would end. But total, the Dreamcast would get 3 installments of this series. It's one thing Sega did pretty well with sports games. Even if I'm not the biggest sports fan, I will say I always did enjoy this series. And yeah, you read that right, online multiplayer on the Dreamcast. Quite impressive. And this was like the last sports game, 2K2. And if you want to read this, you can freeze and check it out. But I got all 3 of these together for $5, so needless to say, they're not exactly in demand Dreamcast games. So if you're all interested in collecting these games and you have a Dreamcast, you can get these dirt cheap. Also, I bought a couple of Japanese import games off of a USR. Both games are still factory sealed. I got them for $5 a piece, brand new. And these never got ported to the PAL region, or I always found the Japanese version cases a little interesting with all the orange for some reason. And of course, I always had these cool little cardboard, like, sleeve things, which I found interesting that only Japanese region did this. But even shows there's even like a little mini game thing. This is actually a soccer game with like big heads and stuff, kind of like the Me or whatever for the Wii and everything. But yeah, you can even look at like plays and stuff on the VMU unit screen, which is a cool little feature. But mostly only Japanese region games actually offer this, which I found fascinating. It's sad that we didn't get some of these cool, interesting sports games, or sorry, not soccer, but this is baseball. My bad. The next one is actually soccer. Um, Really cool looking. I love all the Japanese like stickers and everything. I've always found interesting a lot of the Japanese cover art. And that may be a future video sometime, vlog I'll do, is discussing about different box art designs and everything, like the art of box art, and like maybe do like a list sometime, my top 10 personal favorite like standard like design symbols and everything for each console, and discuss that a little bit in the future sometime. Let me know if you'd be interested in a discussion like that on like different artwork for consoles and everything. But yeah, I always found interesting like some of the Japanese Dreamcast stuff like this. I always did like these backs on this in the Saturn. And last, on the Dreamcast side of things, Echo the Dolphin, Defender of the Future. It was interesting, only selected Dreamcast games would do the black here. Sometimes it was done for mature rated stuff, but, well, Resident Evil didn't have the black, or rather, Code Veronica didn't anyways. But I got this also dirt cheap. I believe it was like $10 in very good condition. But let's be honest, the Echo the Dolphin games have never been the most in demand. But what makes this game interesting is the fact it's the only like full 3D environment, and everything Echo game ever made. This, I believe, was the last traditional console released Echo game on the Dreamcast. Sadly, Echo never went on to other consoles. It's sad, like, the fact that it seems like Sega has just left behind Echo the Dolphin series and left it, which is unfortunate because it's one of, I think, the more interesting platformer franchises of all time. Now on to original Xbox. Just so you know, like, none of the games in this video are expensive at all. Most of these are very affordable. The first, we have a mech style game for the original Xbox, and it is definitely fast paced. Graphically, it actually looks pretty solid for the time period it came out. Now, the way the transformation, everything of the, like, robots into jets and stuff like it, the transforming mechanics and stuff remind me an awful lot of the Robotech series. It looks very similar to Robotech designs, even though, like, none of the people that worked on Robotech worked on this. Still, if you like mech style games and you wanted one on the original Xbox, here's one I recommend checking out, and it's very affordable. Next up, we have one of two Rayman games I've picked up for the original Xbox. Rayman Arena. Basically, Rayman Arena is a sort of a racing game, but not in traditional, like, vehicle. Technically, your character more or less runs, and you still collect stuff like a platformer. It's like a weird hybrid racing game. It's like a combination of racing game and platformer combined into one. It's very peculiar and very different. But yeah, even offered up to 4-player, like, split screen, which is still quite interesting. But it's definitely different than any other game in the Rayman series, hands down. Doesn't play great, I'll be honest. Next, we have a game that actually does play, I think, pretty solid. Most people consider Rayman 2 the best, but I never played the Dreamcast version of Rayman 2, which is considered to be the best version. But I will say Rayman 3 is actually a pretty solid game. I've always had a personal thing for the original Rayman, but Rayman 3 is interesting, at least what I've played of it. As you see, it offers 480p resolution. That's one thing I liked about at least the original Xbox, the way it had these feature things like lit up, highlighted if it offered it or not. It's still interesting that Ubisoft is the one who developed the Rayman series. In my opinion, it is maybe their best franchise. Most people would probably say the Assassin's Creed series, but I think overall, consistency wise, I think the Rayman series has been at least more consistent for the most part. There are some bad batch games in the Rayman series, I'm not gonna lie, but still great. I mean, Rayman Legends and Rayman Origins are amazing games. And I still like Rayman 1, and from what I played, I think Rayman 3 is not bad. I still need to get around to the second. Second to last is a interesting game. This came out a few years before the Lord of the Ring games. This was based directly off of the Hobbit book, since it was many, many years before the Hobbit films. Obviously, also from the art design. The Hobbit game, this is basically a 3D action platformer, which is interesting to say the least. But it's definitely different. Like, the designs, and yeah, you can tell it's definitely an action platformer just from the designs of, like, spiders and gameplay. And yeah, unusual design Golem, but keep in mind the time period this came out in the beginning of the 2000s. Yeah, right there. 2003. So this is 18 years old. So you have to be at least... But I remember this a little bit back in the day, that they had this in like a cubicle display thing. You could actually try this game at the local Babbage's from when I was younger. And I actually played it, and then I had never seen this, and like, I've not seen anyone really on YouTube ever talk about this game. So sometime I might do a video, a review or retrospective type thing on the Hobbit game, because it's interesting more people don't talk about this game. Last, I wanted to save to last, if you like beat 'em ups and martial arts type games, here's a game I actually recommend checking out. Speaking as somebody who has seen several of the classic Bruce Lee films and stuff, I think this game actually did pretty decent trying to be loyal to those films with the sound, natural style, sound effects, and everything. Yeah, overall, the game does not play the greatest, but still, it's enjoyable for what it is. And I feel that if you enjoy classic style martial arts films of the Bruce Lee era, like Jackie Chan and stuff like that, I think you will genuinely enjoy this. And I think it's a solid outing attempt at like a 3D era like beat 'em up type of game, though more based around martial arts stuff than a traditional beat 'em up, but it definitely has elements of those genres combined. But I will say at least it is pretty loyal to stuff involving Bruce Lee, so I appreciate that at the very least. At least it tried to be loyal. You could tell some of the people who worked on this game were actually fans of the classic Bruce Lee films, and that showed. And this was done briefly by a very short time Studio Universal Interactive, which lasted a lot less time than Disney Interactive. But anyways, that is it for pickups, and I'll see y'all next time. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and leave a comment, tell me what your thoughts are. But I'll see y'all next time, and stay safe.